This man was working on a story, taking pictures in a public space, when State Trooper arrived and demanded his ID. What he was not expecting is for the man to know his rights.
What's going on today?
Just taking some photographs in public. They called the police on me for taking photographs in public.
Failed to provide me any press credentials.
Unfortunately, there's no such thing as press credentials in this country.
There are.
No, there's not.
Sure there are.
Who would produce press credentials? What agency in New York would
affiliated?
What agency would produce that?
With a journalistic organization.
All right, so an organization would create their own, right? If I created my own and gave you a card that said press, what's the difference if I did or didn't? Nobody can
be identifying yourself to me.
I did identify myself. I identified myself as a journalist. My name is Dan, and that's more than I have to give you.
I don't know anything about you. You are claiming to be a journalist representing no organization. I have to take your word for that because you're not presenting.
Correct, and this is America, and that's the way it works.
Welcome back, everybody. As many of you guys know, I'm a law enforcement trainer instructor. I train and instruct military and law enforcement all over the country on various law enforcement disciplines to include constitutional law, case law, patrol tactics, use of force, investigations, etc. And here it looks like we got a trooper trooping. Trooper's going to troop, right? So this law enforcement officer showed up for a call for service. I'm guessing somebody inside this building that they're currently out of did not like the fact that a man took his camera out and did this, right? Can't make this stuff up. This is 2025. You think we'd be over the hump by now, but apparently not. And so law enforcement shows up and starts asking for his identification, trying to identify him. And then they get into this really interesting conversation when it comes to press credentials. So the first thing I just want to quickly touch base on is Brown v. Texas, 1979, right? Supreme Court has affirmed that in order for law enforcement to detain and compel identification, they need what's called reasonable articulable suspicion that a crime has occurred or is about to occur. Again, that is Brown v. Texas, 1979. And so it appears that, and from the looks of it, I'm not sure if this person is detained or not. Nobody makes any notes or questions to that, so we're not going to assume. But you do have a police officer that is law enforcement officer, trooper, right? You have a state trooper that is very adamant about wanting to get this gentleman's identification. And he doesn't really want to take no for an answer, and he's coming up with all sorts of different reasons as to why he needs it. And I think the most interesting thing here, if I have to, point out, is this. I don't know where the trooper's going with this investigation, right? And I'm not saying that all troopers are bad investigations. Again, there's some great investigative departments within state police and highway patrol organizations. But your rank and file trooper is not really known for his investigative prowess. So, but let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Getting what I don't understand, and this is, law enforcement. If you're law enforcement, help me out. If I'm not seeing something, let me know. Because I'm not claiming to be, an investigative guru, right? I've done major crimes, ICAC task force, sergeant, testified in federal court, right? So I have a basic understanding of investigations, being that that's what I do full time. But hey, let's just throw that aside. I guess what is he trying to get at, right? The whole press thing, right? Because the person makes a really good point, right? So press credentials are going to be created by the organization. So let's just take CNN, Fox, MSNBC, right? As an organization, they get to say press, right? I own a company, Solution Based Law Enforcement LLC. If I wanted to say that, hey, Hamni Dami, since I'm the owner operator, I could say, hey, one of your jobs is going to be, you're going to be a journalist. And I could literally print myself my own journalist credentials and say, hey, I'm a journalist for my company. Like, I could do that. So I don't understand what that changes for this individual. I guess I could see if lying about being a journalist was a crime, but if you go somewhere and say that you're a journalist and you're not, well, what crime are you going to enforce under statute, right? So a lot of times I feel like officers, they ask questions, and I don't really think they know why they're asking them, right? I think that at this point, again, it's just contempt of trooper. You don't want to say cop because troopers don't like it when you call them cops, but contempt of law enforcement, right? He wants something, he's not getting it, so therefore he has to create all these different nonsensical reasons for why he needs it. So what? Trooper. Honest question, trooper. So what if he's lying about being part of a syndicate journalistic organization. So what? What are you gonna arrest him for, trooper? What are you gonna arrest him for, right? There are other ways to go about using your investigative prowess. There are other ways to go about identifying this person, right? So the idea that we are going to try to hash out roadside the definition of journalist and, me taking your word for it. Again, I don't understand. Number one, I don't understand what he's trying to investigate. It seems pretty clear what's going on. And number two, how is that going to help him with the nexus or elements of a state statute that he's trying to enforce? Again, and this is something that I encourage, I encourage, especially if you're in law enforcement, to really think about, like, why am I asking this question? If you're just asking it to ask it, it may not help you very far in the long run. Because let's take worst case scenario. I'm a journalist. Okay, I'm lying. So what? Right? So what? And then the next question is, what is a journalist, broadly speaking? I mean, that could be anybody. Anybody can be a journalist, right? There's no real standard. There's no real. It's a very arbitrary term for what it is. And so again, it's just we continuously find that officers or law enforcement troopers in this case, they really muddy the waters not only with what they're asking, but also truly not understanding what their purpose for being there is. Everybody's different. Maybe this is his first time dealing with an activist, but when you come on scene, you're dealing with an activist. It's very clear what the activist is trying to do. Depending on their level of ability, right? They could be there just to be a pain in the butt, right? Or they could be your James Freemans or your Sean from Long Island Audit, right? You could have these people who aren't just trying to be a pain in your ass. Like, they're literally going to read you case law, hoping that you violate it so they can sue you, because that's how they make a living, right? So the threshold for the activist is wide and broad, but if you come up upon an activist, their purpose for being there is pretty clear. So for law enforcement, just recognize that, understand it, and move on with your day. If you guys like this video, if you guys like this content, please like, share, subscribe. But most importantly, tell me what you think in the comment section below. Tell me what you think this trooper is doing. Tell me the why. Doesn't matter. Let me know in the comment section below. As always, guys, long live the Republic.